Hi, we are Group 19 and we are made up of Ryan Barnhart, Aaron Kennedy, Giovanna Middlebrook, Ileana Munoz, and Devin Placidis. The topic we will discuss today is how does a pharmacist prepare to treat a culturally diverse older population? Our objectives today are to discuss the growth and examine the difficulties of addressing the geriatric population, to present solutions regarding cultural competency and proper training, and to offer recommendations about treating such a diverse population. A culturally diverse geriatric population is and will continue to be a challenge to the U.S. healthcare system. According to data as recent as 2009, the geriatric population has grown to 39.6 million. But the term geriatric population does not imply a group of persons who fall under the same criteria based on age. This population is further broken down by ethnicity, language, health literacy, and culturally predetermined beliefs. The challenges that pharmacists and the healthcare system will need to face include the health disparities that are already in place, the growth of the non-English speaking population, as only 58% of the U.S. speak English very well, and the variety of health literacy levels. Pharmacists should understand that the geriatric population is made up of individuals with a variety of health literacy levels. Poor health literacy skills in the elderly is a problem that can complicate already challenging health problems. Pharmacists must also take care to combat pre-formed stigmas they may have, as they can lead elderly people to be overlooked and underserved. The older population is not stupid. They may be hard of hearing and understand things a little slower, but that does not mean they didn't graduate college like us, or that they can't read and understand information presented to them. Cultural competency is important because cultural and linguistic barriers between pharmacists and patients have been shown to affect the quality of healthcare delivery. Language and cultural barriers make it challenging for minority populations to access healthcare, and this also holds true in pharmacy practice and with regards to the geriatric population. The inability to communicate directions and counsel patients on new medications can be especially detrimental in the treatment of health conditions and pose a very serious problem for pharmacists and patients. Grounded beliefs from different generations are also important to take into consideration, as well as cultural differences that may exist in different ethnic populations. Many elderly people may have religious beliefs that influence the way in which they see their medical conditions, and therefore influence their medication adherence. The problems associated with treating a culturally diverse elderly population will not simply be remedied by telling health professionals to be more sensitive and to learn the values of other ethnicities. Education for the incoming waves of pharmacists will need to include these strategies in the very foundations of our schools. Without a training policy that begins at the very heart of the pharmacist education process, we cannot hope to instill the empathy and deep understanding of cultural differences in our providers. Scholarships should also be provided to students from underrepresented cultures in order to incorporate more knowledgeable people into the workforce. Cultural training should also be incorporated into continuing education coursework, with emphasis on how to get the best outcomes from patients we might traditionally write off as difficult. Finally, partnering with ethnic communities to provide culturally appropriate geriatric services to the elderly members of their own communities would provide a valuable insight for these training events. Pharmacists can overcome barriers inhibiting the care of a culturally diverse population by putting themselves in their shoes. Understanding that patients all have their own story, background, customs, and traditions will help pharmacists provide better health care. A pharmacy free of misconceptions, biases, and assumptions will be able to focus on the one thing in common that all geriatric patients have. They all are trying to live a longer, healthier life and trust the pharmacist to help manage their personal health care. It is important to not judge your patients. To avoid medical jargon, as communicating in a manner in which the older adult can understand and use health information is a pharmacist's professional and ethical responsibility. To learn common words and phrases that are popular to their generation, or in other words, learn the lingo, and of course, to play bingo with them if possible. But most importantly, pharmacists need to build trust. It is simply not enough to provide a band-aid to fix the problems of reduced health outcomes due to cultural insensitivity and understanding. Requiring a full-time native language speaker in pharmacies, where more than 50% of the patients do not speak English, is a wonderful solution to a problem that has already negatively impacted the lives of many patients. The better long-term solution, however, is to provide pharmacist training to more people who already speak Spanish as a native language. Cultural awareness training to medical staff is a great way to introduce the idea of respectful understanding of a patient's beliefs or wishes, But the better fix is to incorporate this type of training directly into the pharmacist's main education system. Another recommendation we can make is for pharmacists to learn common phrases in the foreign language they most often encounter. In regards to different ethnic backgrounds in the geriatric population, we recommend that pharmacists refrain from making judgments or assumptions. Pharmacists should also be sensitive to predetermined beliefs based on culture. For example, adherence to certain prescriptions may be influenced by strong beliefs in herbal medicine, which pharmacists must take into consideration when treating this population. In order to make a difference in how pharmacists treat a culturally diverse, older population, pharmacists must remember to avoid prejudiced feelings towards geriatric patients, address the health literacy problems in the elderly, and to be sensitive to culturally specific stigmas and beliefs. Our group also has a recommendation and general life tip, which is to avoid physical restraints in the geriatric population. These are our references, and thank you very much for listening.